It is August 2020. That means we focus on women entrepreneurs here at I'm an Entrepreneur. And one of those is a dear friend of mine who runs an amazing business called Rekindle Learning, which is a very, very innovative, there goes that word again, innovative way of making sure that people are able to learn. And of course, I'm talking about none other than Rapelang, Rabana, who now joins me on the line to talk about Rekindle. How are you, first of all?
Hi, I'm all right, my friend. The cold front is getting me down, but hey, we've got to keep pushing, right?
Indeed, indeed. What is your take on this whole Women's Month thing? I have to ask you because I always get like two schools of thought, particularly from the ladies.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of doing ostentatious things and proclaiming things have changed when they really, really haven't. And while I'm in full support of all the GBV campaigns and, men against women against sort of women abuse and stuff,
Yeah.
I still need to ask myself, what are we actually asking the president to do? So, we keep saying, Mr. President, do something, government, do something. But I haven't, gone into a conversation where these are the proposals that will actually counter this thing. And for me, I disengage when I don't have practical steps to go forward. Yes, it's emotional. Yes, it's horrific. But let's get to practicals.
All right. Talking about getting to practicals, let's talk about Rekindle because it is an interesting and new way of learning. How did you even start with it? How did you even come up with it? And for those who don't know, what is it?
Sure. So Rekindle Learning is my big baby that I've really been working on for a number of years now. And I guess for me, it's been a journey of how do we figure out how we use technology to fundamentally change the pace at which we can skill and capacitate people. And for me, this is a big thing because I think we all talk about the demographic dividend of the African continent. But the reality is that if we don't fundamentally change how we skill people, we're not going to be able to realize that. And all of the talk around the 4IR, the digital transformation won't happen without the right skills. So I guess it's been a powerful journey for me to learn so much more about how the mind works and how we really get it to deliver. And what we do now as a sort of a starting point with Rekindle is we've got a platform we've built that is really around how do we empower people to adapt to the changing world of work. And to achieve that, we've essentially packaged all kinds of awareness programs, learning programs, change management interventions into a mobile app, bite-sized learning, short videos, interactive questions, all about adaptive learning. So for example, one of our customers is working on how do we empower people to be data citizens? How do we position them to be able to consume all of these new data solutions that are coming about? And instead of just, putting them in a face-to-face workshop, we can do a lot more than that. In addition to facilitating sessions online, we're actually able to package learning on the microlearning app, push messaging, surveys, get real engagement. And the company then has real data on the level of understanding, the level of engagement, and how people are actually responding. So it's almost a means with which one can cascade change through an organization so that you can achieve the business objectives that you want, as opposed to, traditional training, which didn't get us those results.
Talking of traditional training, I was going to ask you, many people would say a lot of us learned in school, in university, and even in the courses. I remember the early days of working. You went to a course, you went to sit at a desk in the training room, and somebody supervised your learning. You say you're putting learning on a mobile handset and people are learning bite size. How do you know it works? Particularly, or more specifically, how do you convince people that are stuck in that age that your platform works?
It's a huge transition, my friend. And often we find that actually the biggest challenge and resistance is from traditional training and learning people because they are so convinced that the in-person is the only way. And while there's always going to be a role for in-person, it's really about how do you actually get the data that you've actually achieved something.
Right.
So when we're interacting with a mobile app, we do a lot of interactive questions. So for example, in some of our training, we'll take a 500-page manual and package it into short videos and interactive questions. When you gave people those PDF manuals, you had no clue whether they read it, whether they understood it, nothing.
Now, most of us didn't read it.
It was, you were just hoping to God that it worked out, right? And then now we can change all of that because we're not asking people to just passively read. actually every concept that is in that document is packaged into interactive questions. If someone gets it wrong, they get corrective feedback and are brought back to that concept again to check if now they've understood it after being provided with that corrective feedback. So we've almost combined questioning and learning together, as opposed to the traditional way of learning where it's here's the material, read, and we'll give you a test one afternoon, which really wasn't giving us the results that we needed. So now this more adaptive learning that is interactive gets you all these data points, because now for every interaction, we know how the person performed and where the challenges are, as opposed to, this black hole of in-person training that we experienced. And we've seen that it works in different environments. So, the simplest one around compliance is with one of our customers. They use it a lot for your phase RE5 training, which is some big program now that any financial institution needs to get their staff enrolled in to make sure they can be licensed to sell and financial services and products. And typically companies do the 2-day face-to-face workshop and go and write the regulators exams. With one of our customers, they were able to increase their pass rate by 31%, which is the biggest jump that they've been able to experience using our application. In the sales context, we're also able to measure results in different ways. So with one of our customers, a call center environment, they had 2 groups, a control group and the one using our app, and they were launching a new product. And typically when they launch a new product, they've got a half-day workshop where someone tells them what the product is, and the call center agents go back on the floor and start calling people. So what we did with the group in the pilot was that they had that face-to-face in-person workshop, and they were given a micro-learning course that was based on the slides that were presented. And we saw that the pilot group had a 20% higher sales rate than the group that didn't have the app. And this was a very simple course. These are the features, these are the benefits, these are the customers it suits, very simple stuff. But they were a lot more confident, I think, in the material, and a lot more convincing then in their interactions with the clients.
So the science behind this though, Rapelang, is it because we've been wrong about learning all this time since civilization? Or have human beings evolved in the way they learn? I'm almost asking that question, suspecting the answer is the latter, because I look at my own attention span in just reading a piece of content. Have we indeed evolved?
I don't know that we've evolved. I just think that we haven't been attentive to wanting to understand the whole learning journey. And that's been a big problem of how we think about stuff. And part of me going on this journey was making sure we actually unpack the different phases of learning. Most people perceive learning as one monolithic step. Give them the material and the learning is done. Where actually there's a whole lot of other things that need to happen. And in my view, step 1 is actually creating or cultivating curiosity. Yeah. You've got to almost curate an experience that positions people to see the consequences of not knowing something, or an aha experience that shows them, shucks, maybe this is something worth learning. And then you've got to provide some exposure, some teasers to whet that appetite a bit more. And only then do you really provide the actual learning program and content that you wanted to deliver them. Because without someone realizing that they want to learn or they need to learn, that learning won't actually happen. And then after you've actually given the foundational knowledge, you need to then create that space for application and synthesis. And this is where we're experimenting a lot at the moment with virtual reality. So for example, in technical training for artisans who are installing solar PVs,
that makes sense.
Setting up antennas in telco environments, they do a lot of the knowledge-based training on our microlearning, for example, and then they're able to go into a VR environment that allows them to apply those principles long before they actually get onto a client site. So now you're creating an environment to practice and apply that theoretical knowledge so that you are more ready for the real life application of that. And so those are sort of 4 big steps already that I look at when we consider learning. And it's not just this one thing of the content.
Do you not worry that, you're ahead of your time in a way? Before COVID,
my friend, it's the story of my life. It's the story of my life.
Because I guess before COVID, there was perhaps a less appreciation of learning by using technology. One would hope there is more now. But even during lockdown, I didn't get a sense that, the powers that be looked at education and the way we educate our people and kind of prepare them for the working world I didn't get a sense there was a shift of appreciation of the need for
There's
technology.
still a big gap, no doubt. Hey, I'm just hoping that from COVID, we come to appreciate that bandwidth, infrastructure, devices are just non-negotiable, because right now with COVID-19, it's only, private schools and middle-class schools that have been able to continue learning. But poor schools really have been left behind this year because they simply don't have the infrastructure. And I'm hoping that from this COVID-19 experience, at the next, budget allocations for education, we don't look at the internet and internet infrastructure as a nice to have, because now we have seen that it's non-negotiable for someone to actually be able to have this. That's step one. And only then, after the infrastructure, can we have a conversation around what are the learning methodologies? How do we consider technology for the different stages of learning, which unfortunately almost doesn't happen. For example, even the last provincial project at the moment to roll out tablets in schools. It's all about getting the tablets there, but we don't ask ourselves the question, so what's going to happen on this tablet?
Yeah, they need connectivity, right?
If it's just a digital textbook, wouldn't it have been cheaper and easier to just deliver the physical textbooks? We haven't interrogated what is the learning mechanism we're going to leverage. And we still assume that if you put a tablet in people's hands, by osmosis, somehow they get smarter.
No,
and, it doesn't work like that.
Let's talk about your ideal clients in closing. Who is the ideal Rekindle client?
The ideal Rekindle client is a company or a division of a company with at least 200 staff, up to 1,000. And otherwise, it's a phased rollout. And we focused a lot on financial services, so banks, insurance, asset managers, as well as in telco environments. So one of our customers, Orange Telecoms, for example, does it a lot for their sales training in staff and branches so that they're able to update staff and roll out new promotions as much as they can. And we've worked with a couple of universities specifically around first-year students and helping them close the gap between high school matric qualification and actually being ready for university, which we know is a big gap in the South African context.
Wow, well, there you go. To all the corporates out there, you heard 200 to 1,000 staff, universities, government. I hope you're paying attention. Rekindle Learning is something you absolutely need to have a look at. Thank you so much, my sister.
Thank you so much, Andile. Have a good day, hey?